I lay on the cold concrete floor. Ping An was lying on me, sniffing me from time to time. I laughed, then cried, and then laughed again. This was the third day since my death, and my parents were still circling around their precious son, ignoring me. On the first day after I died, no one noticed. I floated mid-air, looking at my shattered body. It was a bit nauseating. My eyes were wide open. My wrist was twisted. My belly had a hole, and some parts were missing. Also, my left foot was on the right and my right foot on the left. So, my death was quite unsightly. The wind carried a heavy smell of blood, entirely over my floating spirit. I couldn't stand it anymore. It was so cold here, even though it was summer. It felt like -30 degrees. I swayed my body, relying on my remaining memories, and returned home. The lights in the house were bright, but it was still chilly. My mom was lying on the sofa, a sweet smile on her face, looking at a cheap crystal ball her son had bought for her. As the crystal ball moved, foamy snowflakes would float up, halfway down, then engulf a dancing little girl. I smirked. On the desk was a card that said, "Mom, although my birthday is in 3 days, I want to thank you. My birthday is the day of your suffering. I wish you happiness forever." The handwriting was sloppy, but my mom was very happy. Wrinkles formed at the corners of her eyes from smiling, but my dad was frowning as he flipped through his phone. Old Lee just said he saw Joe Bao today in the morning with a bunch of gangsters. She's really embarrassing me. Do you have her phone number? Call her to have her come back and kneel at the door for 5 hours. Upon hearing this, my mom frowned as well. What? That's not acceptable. How can a girl behave like this? Saying so, she took out her phone and started calling frantically, but my phone was turned off. She stormed out angrily and shut the door behind her hard. This dead child turned off her phone, watching my mom's angry face walk through my transparent body, then lie back down on the sofa. The clock on the wall showed that it was already 10 o'clock at night. I didn't realize it was this late, watching my dad who kept mumbling about me. I felt a little bit bored. I've known this since I was a kid. They don't like me because I'm a girl, and also a child they wanted to abort but didn't. My mother, upon learning that I was too old for an abortion and it would harm her body, was afraid she'd have difficulty getting pregnant again. So, she had me induced at 8 months. After giving birth to me, she wanted to sell me off in the village. For some reason, she ended up keeping me. This was all told to me by the women in the village when I was a kid. At first, I was named Joe Pandy, but after my brother was born, I was renamed Joe Bauer. Joe Bauer. As I muttered this name and looked at Joe Jixing, who just came back from outside, I couldn't help but laugh. Joe Jixing frowned. Why did Joe Bauer call me so many times? Is she going to die? But nobody cares about me at this time. They casually skipped over my name and continued to serve Joe Jixing with delighted faces. They only love Joe Jixing, who would remember me. Joe Bauer. Before he was born, I should have had 2 sisters. The village fortune teller said it would be a girl. My parents believed the fortune teller and assumed it would be a girl, so they had an abortion. After much effort from my parents, Joe Jixing was finally born in the year I turned 4, 3 days after my birthday. So, will you celebrate your birthday with your brother in the future? A friend asked me this, and I shook my head. I don't have a birthday. In this family, I'm an invisible existence and a scapegoat. Nobody would remember my birthday. Like today is my birthday, but they only remember that Joe Jixing's birthday is in 3 days. How amusing. Finally, at 11 o'clock at night, my mom got angry. Why isn't Joe Bauer answering my calls? Is she dead? I nodded. Yes. She's in an unfinished building some 10 kilometers away from home. Go and see for yourself. Useless. They couldn't hear me speak, whether I was alive or already dead. Snap! The light went off. That night, I slept next to my mom. In my memory, this was the first time I slept next to her. I felt a little happy. ignoring my dad's swearing and grumbling voice. When I opened my eyes again, it was the next afternoon, and no one was home. I've never slept for so long. Back when I lived at home, I had to get up at 5:30 a.m. to make breakfast, because my mom said Joe Jixing couldn't eat poorly. It was their Joe family's fate. Then I moved out and had to work 2 jobs for living, so I didn't have time to sleep. Moved out? I remembered. I moved out to live on my own. It was closer to my work. So, I got up again. My brain was like porridge. Couldn't remember anything. But I magically floated back to my rental room. The rental room is small, but clean and warm. I touched around like I found my real home, until I heard the sound of knocking on the door. The sound was not loud. I floated into the toilet. A little brown-yellow clown dog. Ah, Ping An. This is the dog I found in the garbage bin the day I left home when I was 18. The other brothers and sisters of Ping An were all stiff. Only he was still trying to live. So I picked him up and brought him back. A small lump. I carefully held him, and could feel a strong and powerful heartbeat in my hand. That's how he became my Ping An. Ping An, bark. Ping An, bark. Bark. He seemed to be able to hear me talking, circled around me twice, but seemed not to believe it was me. After 2 turns, he stopped moving. I was very happy. I was being concerned about by my Ping An, even if I'm no longer here, even if I'm now floating in this world, I'm still being concerned about. How happy. I am loved. So that day, I stayed with him in the rental room. Good thing I bought a lot of dog food for convenience, and I always kept a water bucket because I was afraid of running out of water. My Ping An can still live for a long time. Surely he can hold on until he's found. On the 3rd day, I returned to that home that was as cold as a basement. The house had changed. It was decked out nicely, with balloons, candles, and various electronics. They were bought for Joe Jackson. When I was young, my family was not well off, but ever since my dad wanted to give Joe Jackson a good life, he borrowed money to open a shop in the town and bought a house. My father was like he had good fortune. He made money in whatever he did. The loans were all paid off, and an even bigger house was bought, just waiting to be renovated for us to move in. Only that I knew there wasn't a room for me in it. Joe Bar, don't you even think about taking your little brother's things? That house has nothing to do with you. You better not stay in this home anymore. That's what my mom told me. I nodded. I didn't want to rot in this home. I wanted to live, like a human being, but my wish was shattered. It must be the sins from my past life. Hurry up. Get the things ready. Jackson will be home soon. My parents were dressed in formal clothes, waiting for their little prince to come home. Meanwhile, I sat on top of the TV, staring fixedly at the cake on the table. I remembered that I had had it once before, because it was Joe Jackson's birthday, and he purposely pressed me onto the cake. I couldn't breathe and struggled, but my dad saw Joe Jackson enjoying himself and firmly held me down. My hair was full of cake, and it even fell into my clothes. Joe Jackson reached in and touched it. I couldn't stand it anymore and started crying out loud. My dad called me an ingrate and gently told Joe Jackson he didn't need me. My mom, she just stood there, not knowing what to think. Then she suddenly rushed over and slapped me, pushing me away. Stay away from my son in the future. Get out. My mom picked up the cake and threw it at me. Just like that, I had a taste. My memory is blurry. That year I should have been 14, and Joe Jackson was 10. After that, I didn't show up on Joe Jackson's birthday. My parents were happy, because they couldn't see me. That's why they were happy. Only this time I stayed. I don't know why. I just wanted to see these people one more time. While waiting, Joe Jackson pushed open the door. He was 18 years old this year, quite tall, and a little fat. So many nice things. Why isn't there the latest gaming console? At first, he was happy, but after a while, he started to pout and lean on my dad. My dad was almost laughing his face into a flower. "Son, look." My dad took out a small box from behind him. Seeing it, Joe Jackson shouted and was as happy as a giant kid. My mom also smiled. I joined in the laughter too. This is what a family should be like. Without me, it could be a complete family. Joe Jackson was eating his longevity noodles with an egg on top of it. It was made by my mom. I looked up, my brows furrowing, trying to recall if my mom had ever cooked longevity noodles for me. It was too long ago. I forgot. I vaguely remembered that on Joe Jackson's birthday one year, my mom threw me out the door, gave me 2 yuan, and told me to eat by myself. I pleaded with her. "Can I have an egg? Even half is fine." My mom frowned and gave me another 2 yuan. I kept my mouth shut and didn't say anything more. I just wanted to taste the longevity noodles my mom cooked. Thinking about this, I let out a dry laugh, watching Joe Jackson casually eat a few bites of longevity noodles and then clamored for rice. I felt a little bit pitiful. Just a little bit. How come Joe Bar hasn't come back? As my mom stood up to serve the rice, Joe Jackson whispered a question to my dad. My dad shook his head and put a piece of fish in his bowl. "When has she ever come back on your birthday?" Joe Jackson nodded. "That's true. She's just a few days older than me. There's no need to celebrate her birthday." My dad froze, his chopsticks barely holding the vegetables. 2 seconds later, he slowly asked Joe Jackson, "She's a few days older than you." Joe Jackson nodded. 3 days. My dad didn't say anything more. After a moment, he also nodded. "It seems that's right. She is 3 days older." I sat on the TV swaying my legs, and I felt like laughing a bit. I thought they were deliberately ignoring me. Turns out, they genuinely don't remember. Even, they never disliked me, because I was never in their eyes. So that's how it is. Realizing this, it didn't seem as painful anymore. "Pick up the phone for me. I'm washing dishes." Standing next to my mother, I noticed her glancing out the window from time to time, anticipating something. It certainly wasn't me that she was waiting for. The phone continued ringing, and I leaned in to take a look. My father had fallen asleep drunk, and Joe Jagong was in his room playing video games, shaking the water off her hands. My mother picked up the phone, looking at the unfamiliar number. "This is Zhu Ying." The TV volume was a bit loud, and I couldn't quite make out the voice on the phone, but from the look on my mother's face, it wasn't good news. 2 minutes later, she hung up, took a few deep breaths, and turned back to finish washing the dishes. It didn't seem like a big issue. Glancing at myself in the mirror, with the sound of keystrokes echoing in my ears, I decided to head into Joe Jagong's room. It was once my room, but when Joe Jagong refused to live at school and moved back home, I ended up in the storage room for a while. I want to sleep in the big room. The sun is good here. It will make me grow tall. Back when he was 14, Joe Jagong, already at 1.8 meters tall, said those words. I, at 1.6 meters then, am still now 1.6. Shaking my head, I gave up overthinking it. It wasn't important. I passed through the locked door, looking at the room that was a bit messy. He had an entire wall of electronic products, whereas I only had a cell phone that I had earned through part-time work. He also had a skateboard, guitar, and even 2 or 3 displays. So nice. I was so envious. Getting closer to his bed, the sheets emitted a faint scent of detergent, probably because they were freshly changed. So soft. A world away from the $30 sheets I picked up from the market. Joe Jagong sat on a big and thick chair, with a headset on, typing away on his computer. On the table was a picture of a family, the 3 of them. I gently raised my hand, wanting to touch it, but my fingers went through the picture frame. Both the frame and reality lacked my presence. I looked around, forcing a smile, feeling the temperature drop a notch. I stayed in Joe Jagong's room for what felt like a long time. Bits and pieces of memories came flooding back, from when Joe Jagong was 3 or 4. My mother brought me and him to live in the countryside while my father worked away from home. Most of the time, It was I who looked after Zhou Jiagong. He used to call me his sister and would hide the canned food that our grandparents gave him. For me, that was when, late into the night, Zhou Jiagong let out a yawn, stretched, and collapsed on the bed. The faint light emitted by the computer. He turned, frowned, as if plunged into a boundless dream. The moonlight shone on his face, and I watched him for a while. I wanted to see the little boy from my memory. It felt like forever, as the sounds of celebration gradually dissipated, and no sign of childhood remained. The house was quiet once more, a terrifying silence. Slowly, I found myself leaving the house. Without any lingering attachment, I clumsily returned to my rental. It was late into the night, but standing in front of my rental was a familiar but estranged figure. An elderly lady, bent at the waist, hunched over, knocking on my door. I couldn't remember who she was. A neighbor, or the landlord. Realization dawned when I saw her pull out a key and expertly open the door. She took care of Ping An, then rubbed the fluffy head of Ping An. She must be the landlord, going from room to room, knocking on the door. She seemed to be looking for me, but seeing no one home, she turned and left. This child, right as the door was closing, Ping An bolted out, not even responding to the old lady's call. He did pause as he passed me, but then he was off again. I called for him, and he looked back, without stopping, so I followed him. Ping An ran all the way to the veterinary clinic. I remember how much he despised it there. He even refused to approach. But this time, he insisted on going in. The veterinarian on duty recognized him, calling for Ping An as he dialed a number on his phone, probably trying to reach me. But no one answered. Ping An, where's your sister? Ping An wriggled out of the vet's embrace, did a couple of laps in the clinic, and then bolted back out. The vet looked torn between pursuing Ping An and looking after the other animals in the clinic. He eventually chose to shut the door. I felt a little happy. He cared a lot about my Ping An. Thank you. I knew he couldn't hear me, but thanked him anyway and then followed Ping An. Ping An raced to the spot where I found him, which was spotless. He circled around the clean trash can, even barking into it. A very clean little white dog poked its head out from the trash can, complete with a metal tag around its neck. The little white dog also barked, and then Ping An was off again. I found it endearing and couldn't help but laugh. From afar, Ping An looked back at me. Seeing me laugh, he wagged his tail in response. Did you become happy because I'm happy? My precious Ping An? Peace once again started running. He ran past the milk tea shop where I worked. Without me. He ran past the library I often visited. Without me. He ran past the lawn, the park, and even to the bus station where I had only taken him once. He stopped, whining as if he couldn't find his way home, pacing round and round. Peace. I'm not in those places. I'm in a place without light. It's very cold. It's just me. When I open my eyes, I'm alone. When I close them, I'm still alone. So peace. You're warm. Let me hold you. Peace. Woof. I bent down to hug Peace, and Peace gently barked, as if seeing me. He sniffed at my fingertips. Over and over again, I saw Peace, who originally looked wronged, open his mouth and sniffed along the grass, along the street lights, along the cafe, school, breakfast shop, and my cold home, reaching the tin house, the deserted factory, and finally that uncompleted building. I sighed. Peace. I'm here, but you shouldn't go in. But Peace disregarded. He ran faster and faster, as though I was beckoning him in front. He found me after all. It must be hard to look at. I actually used to look nice, for my mom was pretty. My mother was the most beautiful woman in our village. She was picked up to be a child bride by my grandmother. So even though my dad just looked average, my mom married him. I was lucky too. I inherited my mother's beauty. But now it's different. Peace. Don't look anymore. Peace circled around my body, barking from time to time. I feel like he is saying, "Sis, why are you lying on the ground? It's cold. Get up." Or, "Sis, what happened to you? Why have you changed like this?" Or even, "Sis, I found you." I think the last one is most likely. If he was saying that, I would hug him and tell him how clever he was for finding me. But I couldn't. I watched Peace go around and around, even occasionally looking at me. "What are you thinking about, Peace?" He didn't bark, nor did he even look at me anymore. He slowly climbed onto the incomplete corpse. He licked it, then lay back down. I squatted beside, watching him occasionally lift his head to look at me, then look at the me on the ground. I smiled, touched at how much Peace loved me. I cried, upset that no one would love Peace now. Then I smiled. "My good Peace, I hope you find peace." I'm not sure when it happened, but I fell asleep. I was feeling a bit drowsy. When I woke up, it was due to the chatter of several individuals, with Pinguin standing tamely in front of them. It seemed the police had found me. They'd cordoned off my corpse, and the lights were even on upstairs. They must have been there for a long time. I watched as they examined the scene, collected evidence, and took photographs. A few of them with shallow eyes even began to weep openly. I sat next to a cleanly dressed lady, a police officer, who was jotting down some notes. I didn't understand what she was writing, but her eyes were red. Was she weeping for me? "Don't cry," I wanted to say. "Your tears make me want to cry too." I quietly wiped away my own tears, which would never hit the soil, and called out to Pinguin. He looked at the dead body on the ground before reluctantly coming over to me. I gestured towards the female officer. He obediently rubbed up against her, but the sight only made her cry harder. I stuck out my tongue, feeling a little bad. I wanted to comfort her, but it seemed I'd only made things worse. They loaded up my body and Pinguin into the police car, and I jumped onto the roof as the vehicle started moving. It was quite thrilling, although I did worry about being blown off. I had to be careful. "She was your master, wasn't she?" I had no idea if Pinguin could understand, but I nodded for him. "Did she suffer?" And again, I nodded. "It was very painful. It was incredibly painful. Those people didn't kill me outright. They just took some things from me." I closed my eyes, thinking back, the unfinished building, the rudimentary concrete walls, and the fact that I was all alone. They tormented me precisely because I was alone. The other girls I'd managed to get out of there, but I hadn't escaped. I had become their punching bag. They couldn't have anticipated that me, seemingly the weaker, more compliant one, would derail their plan. There was no other way. When I thought of the other girls who still had promising futures, and their friends and family, how could I have just slipped away, leaving them behind? I had nothing either way. In life or in death, I was just an empty shell. I was like the poorest soil of this world, occasionally basking in the sunlight, but ultimately subjected to gusty winds and pouring rains. If I had to find something, anything, that I cared about, it might be the two most beautiful flowers in my barren world. One was Pinguin, and the other, I couldn't think of it anymore. I remember there was a promise, but I had forgotten it. I didn't want to think about it because I saw a familiar face, the ones who made me this way. They were kept behind iron bars. Some kicked the door, some yelled loudly, but they did not seem scared. As for me, I followed a female police officer into a brightly lit cabin. It was warm inside. I saw a familiar face. It was you, the only one I ever cared for. Apart from Pinguin, my other flower. Xianxia, what are you doing here? She could not hear me. Then, I realized I was not there anymore. Xianxia didn't quite look herself. In my memory, she was always cheerful, radiant, unafraid. It was an image I'd never be able to mimic. But now, her hair was disheveled, her eyes dark, her shoes smeared with mud. In her hands, she held my key, the key to my cold home, adorned with 2 photographs. One was a photoshopped shot of myself with my mom and dad and Zhou Jiwen's family. The other was a picture of her and me. She was hugging me tightly and smiling boldly in that image. But when the photograph was taken, I could not remember. Since my death, my memory had faltered. "Have some water," the policewoman suggested gently, placing a cup of water before Zhu Yingzi. But she only lifted her head, stiffly, without moving her lips. I looked into her eyes for a while. It seemed she hadn't cried. That was a good sign. "I know what you want to ask." "I'm sorry," before the policewoman could finish. Zhu Yingzi took out a black dagger, casting an ominous glint under the light. "Yingzi, Yingzi." Zhu Yingzi seemed like a vengeful spirit, propelling towards them with such force that even I was dragged along in the wind of her movement. It took 2, maybe 3 seconds, before she managed to reach the door. The policewoman tried to stop her. At first, she only shielded her. Then she hung on to Yingzi, just barely halting the nearly 1.8-meter tall girl. "I know. Calm down." "I am calm." Zhu Yingzi brandished her dagger, the blade sinking half an inch into the door. "I am calm." I felt panicky. This version of Zhu Yingzi was unsettling. In my memory, she was always gentle to me. "Look at this. I'll take you there," she would say, pointing at a photograph of a beautiful landscape, telling me stories about the places she had visited. Majestic mountains, broad rivers, north to south. She had been to all these places. "Mingju, stop working. Go pack your bags. I am taking you on a trip." She did not call me Zhou Bar. She called me Mingju. The first day we met, she called me Mingju. I was 20 and she was 18 then. But she looked like the 20-year-old and me, the 18-year-old. My memories continued. Each time she came to the milk tea shop where I worked, she would exclusively order from me. Always 2 cups, one for herself and one for me. In half a month, I gained more than 6 pounds. Remembering this, I started chuckling. This sudden outburst startled Zhu Yingzi, who was already on edge. I heard it again, just like the day before. I heard it. Zhu Yingzi turned around and locked eyes with me on the bed. If I didn't know that she couldn't see me, I would have been scared. Although, it was me that really looked scary. I heard it. She just laughed. It was a soft laugh. The policewoman looked at her. Her eyes became red again. Zhu Yingzi searched the room, then finally seemed to lose control and collapsed on the ground. It was the first time I had ever seen her in such a mess. I wanted to take a good look at her, knowing I wouldn't get another chance, but the light was too bright, and my vision got a little blurry, as if there was vapor in my eyes. No bother. I rubbed my eyes and it would clear. By the time I saw my parents, it was around 1 in the morning. My family, dressed neatly. Even Joe Jackson had put on the sneakers from the birthday gift. I squatted next to Ping An, watched my family, and hummed a bit enviously. "Ping An, look at his pair of shoes. They look really expensive." As expected, Zhu Yingzi, seeing Joe Jackson, was like a cat on hot bricks. She picked up a thick book and threw it at Joe Jackson's head. "Joe Jackson, screw you. How are people like you worthy of living? Why are you still alive?" I covered Ping An's ears. Little kids shouldn't listen to this. My dad got angry and was about to hit Zhu Yingzi. No one could have expected that it would happen. After all, Zhu Yingzi had smoked nearly half a box of cigarettes and was thought to have calmed down. So, I saw my dad rushing forward crazily, trying to pull Zhu Yingzi's clothes. The previously furious Zhu Yingzi fell silent when she saw my mom tenderly nursing Joe Jackson's forehead. Actually, I want to say, it's not necessary. No need to make a fuss for me. I squatted on the ground and watched the police separating my dad and Zhu Yingzi. Then I watched my mom comfort Joe Jackson softly, before turning her head towards me. Now, the calmest one seemed to be my mom. "Stop it." My dad ignored her. "Stop it." My dad still ignored her, and even accidentally elbowed her. "Stop it." My mom's sharp voice cut through everyone's eardrums. Upon hearing her, my dad was seething with anger. He stared at my mom fiercely before sitting down on a nearby stool in a huff. Where is she? She's still being stitched up. When these words were spoken, even Zhu Yingzi was staggered. She pushed my mom away as if she couldn't believe it. What do you mean by being stitched up? The policewoman lowered her head, patting Zhu Yingzi's back at each word. She couldn't explain properly. But Joe Jackson chimed in as if he had heard some juicy gossip. Was she cut into several sections? Is that true or false? That's really bombshell news. After he finished speaking, he took out his phone. Even the corners of his mouth were upturned. Guys, let me tell you, Joe Bauer, as he was speaking and walking away, I clearly heard Ping An growl angrily as he walked past us. Biting is not allowed. If my Ping An bites someone, no one will want him. I comforted him and then looked back again. I saw Zhu Yingzi lowering her head, with a sideways glance, her eyes filled with bloodshot veins, and her hand was slowly clenched into a fist. Time seemed to slow down. Zhu Yingzi took a pen from the table and rushed towards Joe Jackson, pen poised to stab him. Stop, I shouted loudly. Don't ruin your bright future for someone like me. My shouted reached Zhu Yingzi, who instantly halted her action. The pen tip was less than a centimeter from Joe Jackson's artery. She slowly turned back. There was a hint of hope in her eyes. But as she glanced around, her expression darkened, and she knelt on the floor with an empty look. I really heard, my darling, what should I do? Everyone who had rushed up to stop her halted in their tracks. Outside was very dark, the light only illuminating a small area. Ping An slowly walked over and sat between us. Zhu Yingzi looked at Ping An, then slowly followed his gaze up to me, as if she saw me. Her body suddenly collapsed, with her back hunched like a cooked shrimp. She slowly covered her eyes with her hands. Then, bit by bit, her tears mixed with saliva fell down, and her silent sobbing reached my ears. Her sadness was deep, and the chill in her heart was hard to melt. What should I do? Oh, my dear Yingzi, please do not cry for me. Dawn was about to break. It was 3 a.m. They said I had been stitched up. They tried their best to fix it, but too much was missing. This was all they could do. The news hadn't reached my parents yet. I heard it as I gradually floated into the morgue. I didn't know why, even though it was summer. I wasn't decaying rapidly. Maybe it was the lower temperature in the unfinished building. Although it was scary, it wasn't terrifying enough to kill. After one glimpse, I left. Zhu Yingzi had been waiting outside the interrogation room all this time. I had to go accompany her. Let's start. I saw a man being shoved into an interrogation room. It was dark inside, and the chair had iron rings. Name, Li Yaoping. Age, 43. They questioned him inside while Zhu Yingzi and my parents listened outside. Joe Jackson was not there. She had used the excuse of being frightened to go home. After a while, Li Yaoping started talking. It was 3 days ago. We didn't intend to catch her at first. She was short and thin, appeared to have poor health, fragile as a sickling, but she saw us taking someone into the car. We couldn't help it. So, we took her away. What we did is not kidnapping. Why are you arresting me? I didn't lay a finger on her. I was just the driver. Li Yaoping was a bit indignant but could not shake himself free, giving in on the chair. Furthermore, he protested, she was doomed anyway. We didn't lie. Look at the way she dressed. In her skirt. So provocative. That kind of woman is bound to die beneath a man. A short-lived ghost indeed. Look at my wife. Why hasn't anyone taken her away? It wasn't my fault. It was the girl who got herself captured in broad daylight in an alley. We didn't even mean to hit her. She was such a pitiful girl. But we need to make a living. Blocking one's fortune is like killing one's parents. It's her fault for letting the others escape. Buddha says, suffering is karma. The suffering escaped by the runaway girls had to be endured by someone. It was meant for her. Tell me, am I wrong? Am I wrong? I am a Buddhist. When Li Yaoping finished speaking, He saw that no one agreed with him. He started getting agitated as if trying to plead his innocence, even murmuring chants inside. Outside, I lowered my head, looking at my silent parents. Xianxia suddenly broke into laughter. Her brows furrowed, tears filled her eyes, and her lips curled into a bitter, sorrowful smile, reflecting off the glass. The smile was heartbreaking. She took out 2 pictures from her keychain, gave one to my mother, and held the other tightly in her hand. "What's this?" Upon seeing the photo, my mother asked calmly. No one answered. My father glanced at it and quickly averted his gaze. Still frowning, Xianxia gave 2 hollow laughs without a word. The police officer inside slammed her pen onto the tabletop. She glared at Li Yaoping. He retorted, "This woman here as well? So late and not at home? Staying with these men? The Buddha will." He hadn't finished speaking when he was escorted out. In a short while, a woman dressed in blue was pushed in. I just did as I was told. They told me to cut here, so I cut here. Cut there, so I cut there. If I resisted, I wouldn't survive either. But that girl was really tough. She didn't cry, only screamed too loudly. We drugged her with caustic soda only because we didn't have a choice. But this wasn't my idea. It was the leaders. Those 2 young ones. That too about her leg. She kicked too hard, so we bound her with wire. Afterward, when the 2 of them realized other organs could be useful too, they planned to take her elsewhere. But they forgot to cut the wire. It was still tied on the other side, so the leg got torn off. I thought back and realized it was true. But by then I was already close to death, so it didn't hurt. After hearing this, Xianxia took a few deep breaths, clutching her chest, taking a look at the photo. She forced a smile. I turned to look at my parents again. My father hadn't reacted much. His brows were still furrowed. My mother seemed to be breathing heavily. I boldly wondered, should be heartache for me, right? They switched to another person in the room. It was a hunched old man. I remember him. He helped me save those girls. I was just the gatekeeper. I didn't know those people. I was just helping that girl rescue the others. The police officer asked if he knew any other details. Oh, it was too pitiful. The girl kept calling for her mother. I even secretly took her phone and made a call. I didn't know who to. I just dialed randomly, but no one picked up. Then the phone went off. Before the girl passed, she muttered something about a shadow. What shadow? As soon as the old man finished speaking, Xianxia immediately covered her ears and shut her eyes, not wanting to hear anything. All I heard the old man say was, she said, "Save me, save me." The old man was taken away, and I turned my head to look at the window. It was already slightly bright. My dad said he was tired and wanted to go home to sleep. My mom nodded, seemingly not wanting to speak much. After my dad came out and looked at the silent Xianxia, he rarely took the initiative to say something. "You should go home too." Xianxia sat on a round stone stool. I floated above her head, watching her blankly, staring at my dad. My dad stopped speaking, gave a light cough, and was about to drive away. "She died. Are you very happy?" My dad stood still, said nothing. I thought he might be happy, because he always wanted me to die. "Look at your younger brother. He fell." I would weakly explain that I did watch him, but he was too heavy for me to lift. Then he gave me a slap, still talking back. "If you talk back again, I'll kill you. For example, you scored 100. Why did Jia Xing only score 80? I would hesitantly say that I taught him, but he didn't study. Then he'd kick me. "You definitely didn't teach well. If you ever score higher than Jia Xing, I'll kill you. Or, choose a rich partner, good for Jia Xing, or else I'll kill you." I nodded, promising on the surface, but I can't lie to myself. My heart that has long since given up hope continued to sink. Later, there was no later. I didn't talk back anymore. I listened to whatever he said. To avoid being beaten, I would kneel. beg for mercy, promise not to make mistakes over and over again when I was locked in the room without water. Even though I didn't make any mistakes, but I wanted to live. It doesn't matter if I don't look like a person. I just wanted to live. I looked down at the distance from the ground. It didn't seem like living. Anyway, luckily she didn't die on Xianxia's birthday. My dad let out a long sigh, seeming a bit relieved. My dear daughter really is unfortunate. Xianxia laughed, seeming to speak to herself as well as to others. My dad wanted to say something, but when he saw Xianxia touching Ping An's head, he said nothing. He turned around and left, never looking back. His back overlapped with memories. Countless times, I begged him in my heart to look back at me, but until I left this world, he never looked back. Not long after my dad left, my mom shakily walked out. Xianxia took out a thin cigarette, took a deep puff. My mom walked over and asked her for one. This was bought by Mingzhu for me. I have a lot, but I won't give you even one. Mingzhu? My mom squatted on the ground. I just happened to see her white hair. There's a lot of it. Xianxia took out her phone. The screensaver was a photo of the two of us. It's Mingzhu, not Bauer. It's my Mingzhu. Xianxia looked up and chuckled. The first time I met her wasn't at the hospital. It was at the garbage dump. I went there to find my bracelet that I accidentally threw away. It was left by my mom. Xianxia slowly told the story, but my mom didn't listen much. Her eyes kept staring at the screen and touched it gently whenever it turned dark. After Xianxia finished, my mom only asked, "Can you give me one of her photos?" "I don't have any." Xianxia finished the last puff of the cigarette and chuckled. "No, but I am her mom." "No." Xianxia instantly flared up, stood up, her eyes becoming icy cold. "When I called you, why didn't you say you were her mom? When I said that Mingzhu might be in danger, why didn't you say, you are her mom?" I watched my mom, who was no longer speaking. I felt a bit sad. I don't know why I'm sad. After all, I was kind of resentful towards her. In my memory, she never embraced me or talked to me softly. Sometimes when she was in a good mood, she would show me a little kindness, but more often, she asked me not to appear in front of them. She would call me a waste of money and a jinx. Even the clothes I wore were handed down from kids older than me. Sometimes I would wonder, is this really my mother? Could I have been picked up? But anyone can see that I look too much like her, so I should hate her. But when I got sick, she would give me medicine. She was always on time for parent-teacher meetings. My dad went to Xianxia's class. My mom came to mine. Sometimes she would proudly tell others that her daughter was the best again, or sometimes she would sneak into my room. I would pretend to sleep, and she would slip me some money. Little shards of light, bits of warmth, kept me alive for all these years. I probably don't hate her. I floated next to my mom, very close, but I didn't dare hug her. Ping An gently called out. My mom's voice trembled. "This dog is raised by her, isn't it? She's like me, likes to sing, likes animals, likes to wear skirts, loves beauty." But when I went to see her just now, I almost didn't recognize her. My mom seemed to cry, and seemed not to. After a while, she lifted her head. Her eyes were red, hysterical. A girl, she can't carry on the lineage. If she's gone, she's gone. I don't care about the aftermath. If you don't have money, just let her rot there. Who made her a girl? Who made her undiscovered to be a girl at the beginning? Who made her born in my belly? Other kids are lucky, not born in my belly. She's unlucky. Who made her unlucky? Born in my belly. My mom roared like a madwoman. Xianxia only kept her face expressionless, didn't respond, didn't get angry. I even felt she wasn't breathing. She glanced at my mom, then waved to Ping An. "Let's go." "Ping An?" My mom's yelling came to a sudden stop. She asked Xianxia blankly, "What's this dog's name?" "Ping An." My mom seemed soulless, lowered her head, and stopped talking. Mom, are you pitying me? Mom, have you ever loved me? Even a little bit? I have warm memories too. They might seem ordinary for kids in normal families, but for me, they've been enough to support me throughout my life. It was when I was 8, on New Year's Eve. My dad and his friends went out to drink, and Jiaxing went to bed early. My mom came to my room and gently woke me up. I'm going out to buy some things. You stay and watch Jiaxing. The electronic clock read. I nodded, went to my parents' room, and after my mom left, I just fell asleep again. When I woke up again, I was back in my own bed. I thought it must be my mom who carried me back, because there was a small cloth bag in my pillow. It smelled good. Inside were some dried petals and a note. It was my mom's handwriting, Ping An. After Zhu Yingzi left, I didn't stay either, because if I don't leave, my Ping An won't leave either. But I couldn't walk fast. I didn't know why. I seemed to have no energy, so I had to slowly follow behind Zhu Yingzi. We've been to many places, and finally stopped on a high bridge. I knew what Zhu Yingzi was going to do. Such a fool. After a soft sigh, I told her, Yingzi, look, the sun is about to rise. Zhu Yingzi looked up at the soon-to-be-lit sky. Ping An, it's going to be dawn. I nodded. Dawn is coming. Zhu Yingzi returned to my rented apartment. The old landlord was still waiting at the door. Ah yo, Yingzi, did you see Bauer? Zhu Yingzi froze, then nodded. I saw her. I just met her. Grandma, you go back first. Well then, she said she was going to come here to eat noodles. I prepared them that day at noon, but she never came. Wait for her to come back then. Come here to eat noodles. You come too. The landlady was smiling, and so was I. But Zhu Yingzi didn't smile. She must have wanted to, but couldn't. She opened the door, went in and plunged into my bed. She buried her face in the pillow and took a deep breath. After a long time, I guess she must have fallen asleep. I felt tired too and lay down beside her. The curtains were not drawn. The room was filled with sunlight. It didn't feel as cold as the cellar. I think Zhu Yingzi must not have slept for a long time. It was already 1 in the afternoon according to the clock, but she was still lying in bed. Mingzhu, Mingzhu, Mingzhu. She was facing away from me, calling my name over and over. Zhu Yingzi, what do you want from me? If she could hear me, she would definitely ask, where did you go? Then I would tell her, Yingzi, I went to the seaside. I haven't seen the sea. The sea is blue. The sky is blue. I feel like I'm about to fly when the wind blows. There are shells and rocks by the sea. Children play. Couples walk hand in hand. But I went alone. Next time, I'll take you and Ping An. If I could still talk, I would embrace her gently. If I could. Zhu Yingzi slept for a whole day and night. I lay there for a day and night too. My increasingly exhausted body told me I might not be able to stay much longer. When she woke up, it felt as though nothing had happened. My corpse, however, was about to be cremated. She bought me a plot in a very peaceful place with a beautiful view. It's the place where she took me to see her mother, and I said that when I died, I wanted to be buried there, and now she really buried me here. I was quite happy about it. Another day, my body had already been put into a small box. The box was very beautiful. It had patterns of waves on it, and today, everyone was here, in front of a stone with my smiling face on it. Then my dad showed up with a reluctant Jiaxing. My mom stood far away, stretching her neck to catch a glimpse, but she never came over. I didn't have many friends, but the policewoman and old landlord came. The landlord wiped her tears and took out a bowl of noodles from the thermos, topped with 2 poached eggs. It was 2. I laughed looking at the poached eggs. I never celebrated birthdays, but today, on the 7th day after my death, I got 2 poached eggs. 2 poached eggs and a bowl of longevity noodles. Poor kid, who would have thought she would die on her birthday? Damn that driver. The old lady touched the tombstone. She wasn't aware of my misfortune. Xianxia and the policewoman came up with a way to break the news to her gently, to save her from the shock at her advanced age. What driver? Joe Bauer was gutted by someone, Jiaxing said snidely with a mocking smile. The neighbor lady was stunned, tears rolling down her face, crossing the ravine of wrinkles, proving the mark of old age, and fell onto the green tiles. In her life, the neighbor lady was really good to me. I just can't remember. My memory faded, but I can feel her intense sorrow like a tidal wave drowning me. Xianxia finally couldn't resist. She went over and punched Jiaxing. Get lost, my dad glared. But after a glance at my tombstone, he didn't say anything. He led Jiaxing away from here unwillingly. Bizarrely, I followed them. I heard him pass by my mom and say something. What a damned star. My mom nodded blankly. She seemed to never refute anything my dad said. If you want to come and see, then come and see. This is the first time, and the last time. From now on, you are not allowed to come here, Xianxia said loudly to my mom, but my mom shook her head. I won't go over. She doesn't want to see me. Xianxia didn't say anything. Her eyes went downcast, but I know that Xianxia understands me. I wanted my mom to come and see me. Throughout my life, I wished for her to look at me, but my mom left without looking back. Just when she turned around and left, just for that second, it seemed like I finally realized that I was truly dead. I don't know why, but tears fell without warning. I opened my mouth and made two helpless sounds, but I couldn't say anything. Things I hoped for and couldn't get. I should have been used to it. I smiled as I lowered my head, looking at my increasingly transparent body. Slowly I floated back on my tombstone, the scorching sun shining on me, as if to scorch me, feeling my heartbeat steadily weakening. The barking of Ping An became more intense, but all I could see was some ambiguity, and heard something. The wind came. I swayed twice. The wind stopped, and I just stayed quietly. I don't know if it was a second or a minute, or even an hour. Either way, time seemed so slow, like it wanted to stop. Gradually, I heard the sound of a clock. I heard a voice about a girl, accompanied by a cough and a sigh. I heard people calling me merchandise, saying I ruined her life. I heard voices praising me for being good at learning and looking good. But some people said I knew how to seduce men at a young age. It's just that everything in front of me is getting darker and darker. I always feel that I am falling into the abyss, falling into endless darkness, falling to the bottom. It's cold, so cold that I can't help but hug myself. Mingju, I heard someone calling me, in the white hospital, across the brown table, in the black night sky, on the green lawn, under the bright sunshine. I saw someone coming towards me. She seemed to be smiling, handing me a sweet potato, warning me it's hot. She warmed my cold hand again, walked the same road thousands of times. It seemed like she made promises to me, to love me forever. But I couldn't open my eyes anymore. I again felt something fluffy, and the whimpering sound of a small animal surrounding me. It seemed like I suddenly became relieved. It seemed like I suddenly felt happiness. The revolving lights shone in front of my eyes. A little boy who looked like Jiaxing was holding my hand. He told me, "Sister, you wait for me." And so, more and more people came to my side. The bright Xianxia, the kind-hearted landlord, and the warm Ping An. They were all around me. Yingxi's voice overcame everyone else's, the noise of the world, and my unfortunate past. She was like the sun. She seemed to be my light. She said, "Mingju, you are Mingju, my precious Mingju. After this summer, I will take you to see the winter sea. Okay, Mingju. Oh, Mingju, you can't be unhappy. Let's go change our name. Let's go with Mingju. Zhou Mingju, Mingju, Zhou Mingju. Yes, I am Mingju. I'm not Joe Bauer. I'm Mingju. One last look. Let's take another look at this world, which is not warm, but I am fond of. Afterwards, I won't be coming back. Extra chapter from Yingzi's perspective. I feel a bit unwell. My heart feels as if it's being squeezed like a sponge, wringing all moisture out of it. I think it's because of Mingju. It's as if I hear someone pleading, "Save me, Yingzi. Come and save me. I'm panicking. I'm scared. My limbs feel weak, and I even fall down. Unable to get up, I crawl, propping myself up with my face until I finally grab hold of my phone. But Mingju has switched off her phone. Overwhelming fear quickly descends on me, leaving me breathless. I stumble about, covered in mud. I run out to find her. I've searched every place I could think of, but there's no sign of her. So I go to the police station, telling them that I heard her, that I felt something. But the policewoman says it's too early for a case file. I don't listen. I stay stubbornly at the police station. No one pays attention to me. Left with no choice, I go out again, searching round after round. It feels like I've been to all the places I could think of, until the realization hits me Mingju is indeed in danger. I return to the police station, only to witness a pale-faced girl with symptomatic bloodshot eyes storming in, exclaiming that she has been kidnapped. But her parents are still trying to persuade her, telling her not to stir up trouble. I escaped, but someone else didn't. Those are human traffickers. Those are demons. Sorry. I'm sorry. It's already been a day since I escaped. I don't know if she's still alive. She looks critically ill. I can smell the bitterness of medication in her breath as she ignites the fear in me with her words. The police react swiftly. Operations are arranged in a jiffy. 7 criminals are identified within an afternoon. 5 are caught. 2 manage to escape, but they still have not found my Mingju. I suppress the anxiety deep within my heart and sit there, waiting quietly. I believe Mingju will be able to turn this calamity into a blessing. I pray for Mingju to have such fortune. But they do not bring Mingju back. They say these people are incredibly cunning, leaving no trace behind, unable to sit still. I question the criminals, people who look kind but are actually sinners. Their cold replies are echoed in my mind. We didn't kill anyone. We just want to see if she can survive. I tell you, let me go. If you don't release me, what can I do? I still have my old mother at home. I'm having a hard time to. When they refuse to speak, I kneel down before them, begging and pleading. Please tell me. Please tell me. Still they remain silent. The younger ones even ridicule me, comparing me to a dog. Anything is acceptable, no matter what it takes. I long to know the whereabouts of my Mingju, but my Mingju has once again ascended to the heavens, becoming a star. My name is Zhu Yingzi. What's your name? I am Joe Bauer. I was 18 that year. At the rubbish dump, I encountered a clean and untainted Mingju, holding on to the bracelet my mom left for me. It was just a stretch of colored beads, but when it's in her hands, they radiate like gemstones. Is this yours? Bauer ran out with this in her mouth. I suppose someone dropped it accidentally. I was planning to return it, but I never expected Bauer to bring me to this place. Oh, I live up on that slope. My eyes were glued to her, too dumbfounded to utter a single word. She was breathtaking in her simplicity, and when she asked again, "Is this yours?" The bracelet was clean. Her hands were pure. I can't remember what I stuttered out eventually. She handed me the bracelet. That day was rainy, and she expired her umbrella to me. People always praised me for being intelligent, but that day, I was nothing but a dumbfounded fool standing in the rain, shoes caked with mud, watching her draped in white attire, fading into the distance. I just held the bracelet and umbrella, watching her walk away. The next time I saw her was in the hospital, where I had fetched some blood-resolving medicine. I watched the frail, pale her exiting the hospital. After a month, she seemed to have forgotten me, so I introduced myself again. My name is Zhu Yingzi. I am 18, I said. She nodded and said her name was Zhou Bar. I corrected her. I believe your name is Mingju, a luminous pearl that truly deserves to be cherished, I declared. She smiled but didn't say anything, then left again. I could clearly see an unfathomable sadness in her eyes, a sorrow in which I became immersed. I found myself tailing her everywhere, a sort of ordinary stalker. Her life was simple, working in a milk tea cafe and a library, going home, eating, walking her dog called Ping An. I followed her for a whole day. Eventually, I concluded that I wanted to get to know her better and become best friends. So I sold the house my terrible father had left me. Utilizing my experience from traveling many places, I became a small-time magazine editor. The income wasn't much, but it was enough to live comfortably and enough to take care of Mingju's needs. And then, Mingju and I became the very best of friends. No one could ever beat our bond. I am aware that Mingju's family background was pretty messed up, but I believe that her life will get better. Though I am clueless as to why she doesn't want me to celebrate her birthday, I always make a wish for her every year during her birthday. I wish my Mingju can reap what she desires. Peace and safe. I do the same on my birthdays. I wish my Mingju can reap what she desires. Years of peace. This way, my Mingju could be blessed twice a year. This way, my Mingju will indeed have years of peace. Until I saw Mingju's body, shattered and unrecognizable. I couldn't take it anymore. Slowly, I walked to the overpass. Perhaps it should just end this way, I thought, but then I heard a sigh, and in that moment, I was overcome by grief. I remembered her often saying, "Yingzi, the sun is about to rise." I couldn't see her, but I could feel her beside me, soft and close, swallowing my tears. I smiled. Indeed, dawn was near. For that instant, I truly believed the day would dawn, until I could no longer sense Mingju's presence. 7 days after her death, standing beside Mingju's grave, I realized that daylight would never come again. Then, I moved into her rental room. Ping An would always stay on the bed, and I printed all our photos and pasted them on the wall. The entire room was covered with them. Today is the 100th day since she left. I heard that her mother's mental state is not good. I didn't care. Yet her mother always asked me for photos, which I refused to give. Now and ever. Sometimes, late at night, like a madman, I stand atop that unfinished building, stretching out my leg to feel the hollow world. My Mingju, perhaps she felt the same, without a destination, or a way home. Mingju, Mingju, Ping An is okay, and I'm okay too. How about you? Mingju, Mingju, Ping An is gone. 441 days after you left, Ping An also departed, standing in front of Mingju. I placed down the white camellias, holding a diary I accidentally found between the boards of a bed, written by Mingju, bits and pieces of me and Ping An. I lit up the diary and took my last puff of cigarette. Turning away, I began my descent. Along the way, I passed a temple, where a monk dressed in bluish-gray robes stood on the stone steps, his hands clasped, his eyebrows drooping, an old face. The street was not crowded, but everyone who passed by him would pay homage. After only a glance, I was about to move on. "Benefactor," he called. I knew he was calling me, but did not stop. "Benefactor." "Forget it," he added. Then I could no longer move, turned around, and looked at him. "Master, can Buddha hear my words?" I asked. He sighed, shaking his head and then nodding, which I found absurd. "Master, you're a good man. Buddha may be more willing to listen to you." "Master, if you can you ask him for me? Can I still see Mingju?" I looked up to the clear skies, left alone in this vast world. No more of my Mingju, a fire. "Mingju, you're too far from me, but still, I want you to see me. I've reached the Zhous, where you're not present." Walking around, I saw the house is nicely decorated but so empty. Astonishingly, all signs of your existence have been erased. Oftentimes, I'm wondering if a man can be so wicked. I threw the lighter you gave me into the house and flames erupted. I locked the doors and windows from outside while they were begging and kowtowing. Perhaps you too had once knelt and pleaded to your so-called father in this home. I couldn't feel contented though. Mingzhu, you might laugh at me, or you might tell me not to give up a bright life for someone not worth loving. But I want to tell you this. Mingzhu, though shattered, you're my pearl. Mingzhu, you're too far to see. But look, the immense fire has lit up your way should you wish to find me. Mingzhu, why are you still silent? Won't you come to meet me? Mingzhu, I miss you. Do you miss me? Mingzhu, Mingzhu, I'm not staying. I'm coming to find you. That rainy day, our rushed meeting turned out to be forever. However, I feel like I've never seen you again. My Mingzhu.